Yes, everybody, welcome back to Talking Wolves. Welcome back to a brand new match preview on the channel today. We're going to be previewing Wolves versus Tottenham Hotspur, the final game before another international break. But a game that I'm sure we're all looking forward to. The games at Molineux this season have been great. They've been eventful. We've had some great moments already this season, and hopefully this Saturday is another one of those. It's an early kickoff this weekend against Spurs, and it's a really interesting situation with their team going into this game, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And of course, we'll talk about on the opposition part of the video as well. But before we kick off, though, it is just 1 week now until the Molineux sleep out. We're really looking forward to taking part in this. Thank you so much to everyone that's contributed towards our fundraising page so far. But if anyone else would like to contribute, if you're a supporter of this channel and want to help us out, I would really appreciate it. Whether you can spare a couple of pounds and donate to our page, it would mean a lot. I'll make sure I leave a link to it at the top of the description down below. But Wolves will be hoping to get back to winning ways after a disappointing game last weekend against Sheffield United, and a frustrating decision towards the end of the game where Robert Jones, the referee, awarded Sheffield United a penalty. And it's pretty much come back today. There's an independent panel for the Premier League that review these VAR and major decisions, and they unanimously said that Robert Jones and the VAR gave the wrong decision and the penalty should have been overturned. So it's frustrating because that's the second consecutive week that's happened now. They said the penalty against Newcastle shouldn't have happened either, but Saturday definitely we were taking a point off us, really. But it is frustrating because I still don't think Wolves probably did enough to win the game, and that's really what Wolves have got to improve going into this match against Tottenham Hotspur, who have been on fantastic form so far under Ange Postecoglou, who left Celtic during the summer to join Spurs. Of course, they lost Harry Kane. He had a big job on his hands, but he's created a really good atmosphere there and a really good brand of football. And you see with the way they're playing, but which we will talk about a little bit more in the opposition part of the video shortly, their squad is all over the place at the moment. If you caught that game on Monday, they had 2 or 3 players come off injured. They got 2 red cards for their defenders. So the main sort of talking point from a Spurs point of view is who are they going to start at the back? Eric Dyer's probably, off the top of my head, possibly the only fit defender that they've got at the moment across that back line. They've got 2 or 3 left backs injured. Their right back, Pedro Porro's a doubt. Of course, a couple of centre backs suspended. So it's going to be could be a makeshift Tottenham Hotspur team. But Wolves can't go into this game and take it for granted. Spurs and Postecoglou will be up for this game. And they have been on good form. They're a close-knit group. So it will be a tricky game for Wolves. But going back to the Wolves team, really, there were a couple of changes, of course, made last weekend. We saw Pedro Neto, who, of course, was injured. Sasha Kalajdzic come in for him and started up front. Quite a surprise one was that Tommy Doyle came in for Boubacar Traore. So I'm really unsure whether... I just don't think those changes worked. I think both Kalajdzic and Tommy Doyle are fantastic footballers. And, of course, have come off the bench and changed games in their own different ways. So I am really hoping that they are still able to do that and play a part, but I think possibly I would take them out of the team for this particular game. I mean, if we jump into my predicted lineup here, you can see, of course, I've started Sarr in goal, and the same back 5. I think Aït-Nouri and Semedo as the wing backs. I still think, of course, the back 3 of Kilman, Dawson, and Totti Gomez should retain their places. Midfield's an interesting one for me. I think Boubacar Traore could certainly start, but I've stuck with João Gomez and Mario Lemina. Those two seem to have got us our best results, really. So I'm hoping those two play. Although Boubacar, of course, played against Newcastle, and that was a good performance as well. So I think Lemina keeps his place, and then for me, either João or Boubacar come in that position. And then the front 3, I think if Bellegarde's fit, that's the big one. If he's fit, I think for me he's got to start probably on the wing. Cunha again through the middle and Hwang on the opposite wing. I think those 3 running, at this sort of potentially dodgy Tottenham defence could cause Spurs some real problems. So I think Bellegarde's got to come in for me. The Kalajdzic experiment possibly didn't work. And I think with us being at home against a bigger team, you want that pace on the counter-attack and going forward. Another option could be, but I don't think it would happen, is Fabio maybe. Of course, he got a lot of stick after Saturday's game. And in the end, it wasn't a penalty. So a lot of us are giving him stick for giving away a penalty. And it shouldn't have been a penalty. He's obviously not rapid, but I think he's quicker than people make out, and he could offer a different option to Sasha Kalajdzic. I think if you're wanting to play a quick, expansive game, and trying to play on the counter attack, I think Fabio's a better option than Sasha. But the lad's morale and confidence is rock bottom at the moment, so that would be a big risk, I think, for Gary O'Neill. But somebody that won't be there on Saturday, unfortunately, is going to be the sporting director, Matt Hobbs. Unfortunately, he had his hearing today after a warning from the FA after language used towards Anthony Taylor after the Newcastle game. And the FA confirmed today that Matt Hobbs will have a stadium ban for Saturday and pick up a £4,000 fine for the language used towards Anthony Taylor. So, unfortunately, he won't be there. I'm sure he'll be, in his dressing gown, maybe somewhere watching it on TNT Sport anyway for that match. But, I am looking forward to this game, guys. And, of course, Tottenham fans may be looking forward to it. Maybe worried about this game, but I spoke to Ricky from The Last Word on Spurs earlier on to get his thoughts on Tottenham Hotspur and what we can expect on Saturday. So then, guys, delighted to be alongside Ricky from the Last Word on Spurs podcast to talk about Tottenham so far this season. Ricky, thanks for jumping on. How are you, man?
Yeah, not bad at all. Thanks, Dave, and yourself?
Yeah, all good, thank you, mate. All good. Mate, it's been a great start to the season for Spurs. Obviously, we'll jump into it a little bit more in regards to Postecoglou and so on. But, I mean, you've had some crazy games like we saw on Monday, a bit of VAR controversy as well earlier on in the season. But what's the mood amongst Spurs fans right now? And can you give us a quick summarisation of the season so far?
Yeah, I think, look, despite the fact of that crazy game on Monday night against Chelsea, which I think we're all still trying to get our breath back from, I think overall it's been a really positive start to the season. I think we're all pleasantly surprised by where Spurs find themselves in the table. Obviously, in a situation where we're adoring this manager who's only been here for a matter of, it feels like weeks rather than months or years. And I think the general vibe, Dave, is one of positivity, despite the fact of that crushing defeat on Monday night, which is hard to get out of your mind because of the way the scoreline towards the end just become a real car crash. And I think, he's decided that's the way he wants to play. He even said that if Spurs were going down to 5 men, they would still be playing an attacking brand of football. So it's really exciting from obviously the fact of us having Conte, Mourinho, Nuno. Yes, we did have Nuno for a period. Feels like a long time ago now. And I think overall there's a real positive vibe around the Spurs stadium, around supporters that just enjoying the football again. I think, everyone's tried to make a narrative that Tottenham could potentially be in the title race. Probably everyone else bar Spurs fans have felt that because we know the quality around us like Man City, Arsenal and Liverpool, of course, as well. And I think we're just enjoying the ride at the moment. We're enjoying the brand of football. We're enjoying what we're seeing. And look, the next test is always the biggest one, and Wolves will be a definite stern test, as you mentioned in our preview show last night.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Postecoglou as well, took Spurs a hell of a long time to sort of find the right man in the end. And Postecoglou has managed at the top level of, and won trophies of different leagues, but probably not a league as big as obviously the Premier League. What were your sort of thoughts and expectations when he came in versus now? Because I think he has surprised everyone with how well he's done so far at Spurs.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good question. Coming in, I think we're trying to be optimistic. I think maybe we could get a top 6 finish, running a cup. I think we all felt it was going to be a transitional season. That word transitional, obviously losing Harry Kane, who you've seen what he's done in Germany, just been absolutely remarkable there. So there was an element of trepidation going into the season. I think, again, when you're bringing in 5-6 new players for new positions, there's always that kind of bedding in period. And I think the key thing for Tottenham has been the recruitment's been really, really good the last 6, 12, 18 months with Parategy behind the scenes pulling the strings. And I think, as you've seen there's already been a real felt connection with the fans, which is really half the battle. I mean, last season, the fans in the stadium were singing for Daniel Levy to leave the football club. And it's funny, isn't it? Results do really generate and change a narrative because all this season it's like a nightclub in there, freed from desire, being blasted out from the speakers and on the pitch. He's even got his own song. Just a real good vibe around the camp. And I think, again, you look at what was going to be happening potentially before the season to now. I think it's chalk and cheese where Spurs find themselves in. I think all they need to do now is kind of mirror their second half finish of the season, which was a car crash, and they would get Champions League football, which just tells you how good their first half of the season has been so far. So real positive start to Tottenham's season. Cautious that, look, I think it's not the result on Monday that is just as bad. It's the amount of injuries now Spurs have picked up. They're waiting for news on Mickey van der Ven, who's been instrumental, and also Christian Romero, who's going to miss 3 games. Destiny Udogie at left back has also been crucial. Hill obviously missed the game as well. So you could argue for Wolves, there's not a better time to be playing Tottenham. You know, they were without really 3 or 4 key players. James Maddison, a late fitness test for him. Pedro Porro yet to train this week. As is Richarlison as well, who's expecting surgery. So the injuries are mounting up at the moment, Dave, which is probably music to your ears. So I think Wolves will come into this game feeling that they can look to maybe prove a point on the back of what was a disappointing result against Sheffield United for yourselves.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think you are right in terms of on paper it's probably a good time to play Spurs, but Postecoglou being the manager he is, I think he will find a way to really G up the Spurs players that are available, and we have seen Wolves historically go into games like this and be take it almost for granted that we're going to get something out of the game because Spurs are weakened, and obviously football isn't like that. Like I said on the preview did on your podcast, we have been very good at home, so that gives me a little bit of hope, but no doubt it will be a very tough game. You mentioned obviously all those injuries and suspensions there. Sort of the back four for me is probably going to be the one that is all over the place, Ricky. Who do you think? Obviously Udogie's out. You got Van der Ven probably injured as well. What's that back four going to look like, do you think, for Spurs on Saturday?
I probably know Dave as much as you at this moment, to be honest with you. I think it's just, really, it's wait and see, to be honest, to some degree. I think we were expecting Eric Dyer to get his first start of the season. I think Spurs fans had made their mind up on where they stood with Dyer in the summer. I think there was a real genuine feel that maybe it was time for a new challenge, both for him, both for the football club, but for whatever reason, couldn't materialise in a move. I'd be stunned if Dyer doesn't start because he's the only Premier League defender Spurs have got available that's got minutes and experience. So it's whether Spurs do pair him with someone who's a makeshift centre-back, Emerson Royale, who, of course, he partnered against Chelsea. They went on to concede, of course, another 3 goals. Or do you partner him with Pierre-Emile Højbjerg again? It's not the most paciest defensive centre-back pairing. Or do they go for someone like an Ashley Phillips, who done really, really well at Blackburn? Spurs went in the summer, hasn't yet played a minute, has played, I think, 4 games for the development squad. So I think the good thing, if you're a Wolves fan, is that you're going to be playing against an untried, untested centre-back pairing. And then again, you look at the other options. Left side, they could bring Emerson Royale, who can play despite being a right footer. Other side, Pedro Porro has been really, really good. I mean, despite the fact that, there was concerns on the back of him joining last season and the way he started, I think he's really come on under Ange so far. So it will be a newish back four that haven't all played together. But like you said, Postecoglou is a coach, so he would have been working from Tuesday onwards in terms of drilling those players. He would have already known in his mind, Dave, what he would have wanted in terms of the back four for Wolves. And again, I hate early kickoffs. I've got that feeling where, again, it's just, for me, Molineux is one of the most toughest places to go anyway, bearing in mind it's a 12:30. What I'm hoping is a bit of reverse psychology in that kind of forces the Wolves fans to have to try and wake up, where maybe if it was a 3 o'clock or a 5:30 or a under the lights on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, might be slightly different. But will be interesting to see obviously how you guys get on. I know you're without Neto, which is obviously a key player, but there's still a lot of Wolves players that can still hurt us.
Yeah, definitely. I think Neto's the big one. And again, he was a big miss for us against Sheffield United. And it will be interesting to see who Gary O'Neill plays up top to really test that defence, I think. And we saw Kalajdzic, the big lad, start, and it just didn't, I don't think it quite worked. But I think if we can get Cunha through the middle, running at that back line, it would be really interesting. And then, obviously, you mentioned the Chelsea game earlier. I watched that game. It's quite rare that I'm able to sort of sit down and watch some Premier League football. But I was watching it, and I suppose Postecoglou's comments sort of, I now understand why he did it, but I was watching it and thinking, why is he not just park the bus here to try and get the point? What was the sort of, on your podcast, I'm sure you spoke about it, but what was the thoughts about that? Do you think fair play to Postecoglou if you're playing how he wants to play, or are you a bit frustrated that you could have possibly, I know it would have been a boring second half, but could have possibly fought to get a point, because Chelsea weren't exactly looking threatening in front of goal before that high line?
Yeah, I probed that question to the panel we had on last night, Dave, and I've listened to obviously a lot of different Spurs podcast media outlets as well. I think the general consensus, 95% of Spurs fans were really happy, despite the fact of camping that line. It is bizarre, like you say, because you could argue essentially that, had they set up in the same way Liverpool did when they came to Spurs and nearly got a draw, if it wasn't for that last-minute own goal from Nentap at the time, I just think that maybe, Spurs could have had more of a chance in the game. But like you said, I mean, Postecoglou's just not going to play that way. He's made it very, very clear that he would rather go down fighting. He will camp if it needs to be done so. 7 or 8 men in the opposition's half rather than putting 8, 9 players on the goal line. It just isn't his brand of football. And I think in the most bizarrest way, what would have made him pleased about, and I don't know how you can be pleased after a 4-1 defeat, is that the players stuck to the plan. They stuck to the instruction, which was, we don't change our game. We carry on playing the way we're playing. And the maddest thing about it all was that, incredibly, up until the 93rd and a half minutes, Spurs could have actually equalised. They had Bentancur, Son go close.
Dyer's goal disallowed as well. That would have been 2-2.
I mean, look, again, it's one of those games, again, it's all hypotheticals, but if Son scores at 2-0, I think Chelsea are out of the game. But football being football, I think we were really pumped up for the game. Again, it's a reminder that maybe players like Romero, Udogie, that, for me, Romero is one of the best centre-halves in the world, but, you won't have that reputation for long if you keep on doing this. I think for him, it's 4 red cards in 75 Premier League games, and you equate that over a season, it's every 18 games he's getting a red card. I mean, you just can't do that if you're going to be deemed as what I deem as a world-class centre-back. So I'd like to think it's a one-off under Postecoglou. He's been superb. He's been nominated for the Player of the Month for October on the basis of how well he played. So, look, I think we'll see what happens at the weekend. He's a massive loss, Romero, as is Van der Ven, who we're still waiting for news upon. And as we've mentioned, it's a makeshift back for Wolves. I know you share a concern of trepidation going into it, but I think if any side are going to play Tottenham, it's going to be with a real, I'd say, untested back line. And James Maddison, who clearly, to me, does not look fully fit on the eye, despite having a magnificent contribution so far in terms of goals and assists. And I do think for Wolves, being an early kickoff, it's a real opportunity to take Spurs there to, a different place in which they've been in the last kind of 10, 11 games.
Yeah, I mean, the last question I've not mentioned, you mentioned him earlier, Harry Kane as well. That was a big talking point throughout the summer, and obviously a huge part of how well Spurs have done over the last few years or so. Were you surprised not to see, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember Spurs bringing in almost a like-for-like replacement for him, and Son has sort of taken on that role now and actually done really, really well. How happy and surprised are Spurs fans at that so far?
Yeah, look, again, I think Harry was one that, until he actually moved, none of us actually believed he would move in the most weirdest way. It was obviously spoken about for months, for years, as you know, with the 24/7 rolling news channels that are out there, Dave. Looking back on it now, for me, I think there was a concern, but Son has proved in the past that when Kane had been out in long injury periods, Son had always stepped up. I think the biggest thing has been overall has been the captaincy change. I think Son has absolutely relished being the captain, and we've got the new vice captains in Romero and Maddison. And I think there's just a new feeling amongst the camp now that sometimes, Dave, and when you've got that one player that's been the standout for 9, 10 years, everything kind of goes through him to some degree. He's kind of seen as the poster boy of the football club. Whereas now, maybe it's a bit more of an even field that everyone's kind of got, equal share of that dressing room. Whereas before, everything goes through Harry. So look, wish him all the best. Made an amazing start in Germany, as we've seen. It's funny now how now he leaves Tottenham, everyone does think he's world class. But that's football, right? I mean, that tells you a lot about what people think about Tottenham fans. But there you go. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, he's a world class striker. He's proven it now in the Champions League, in the Bundesliga, which we all knew, to be fair. We knew he was a wonderful player. And look, wish him all the best for the future.
Yeah, and Ricky, going into Saturday's game, score prediction, what are you thinking?
Oh, man. My heart says 2-1 Spurs. My head says 1-1. Yeah. I think what's crucial is the first goal of the game. I think if Spurs go 1 down, obviously with the injuries they've got and the forward line they've got, I think it could be a really difficult game. So I think the key thing for Tottenham is to score first, try and silence that Wolves crowd if they can, because Molineux is one of those grounds where if you give them anything, they do get going. So really important to score the first goal. I will say, 1-1. My head is saying 2-1, saying the heart. So one of those I think I'll go with.
No, I think I said 1-1 as well, to be fair. And I think, or it could be a goal either way. I don't think it's going to be a clear winner in this.
It'll be a real tight game. I've got to say, Gary O'Neill, I'm so impressed by him. I thought it was absolutely superb on the Monday night football recently. Where I just think, again, with Wolves fans that may have had apprehension about him, I think they've got a really, really good young coach there that he wants to be at the football club. I think that's really, really key. I mean, Wolves have had some real high-profile managers, which you don't need me telling you in the last however many years. But Gary O'Neill looks one that's really, really invested there and wants to build something. So I think it's an exciting time to be a Wolves fan. I think you'll be absolutely fine this season. And who knows, you're going to get big results as you've shown, like Man City, draw against Newcastle. They're a side that you can't take for granted, Wolves. They're a hard-working side, and that's what reflects in Gary O'Neill's tactics.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. I'm hoping that he kicks on, and obviously it's a decent season for us as well. Ricky, people want to find your podcast. Where's the best places for them to do so?
Yeah, we're mainly we advertise normally on X, so X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days, Instagram, Facebook. We're obviously, of course, offer post-match reaction to every game, previews, opposition views as well. So yeah, come and check us out. If you need therapy with Tottenham, if you want some fun, humour, that's where you can find us.
No, I'll make sure to leave a link in the description down below, Ricky, as well. And yeah, apart from Saturday, all the best for the rest of the season, mate. I'll catch you soon.
Thanks, Dave. Likewise, we'll catch up on the reverse fixture.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, bud.
So big thanks to Ricky. I'll make sure to leave a link to him and their podcast in the channel the video description down below. Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game. I think it could be 1-1, if not a goal either way. I think, of course, Tottenham overall, their squad and how they're playing is much better than Wolves. But I think this home advantage has been a big plus for us in recent weeks. I think, obviously, Tottenham's injury and suspensions issues, the likes of James Maddison could be out as well. So all big pluses for Wolves. It's just up to us now to make sure the football does the talking on the pitch and we can get something out of this match. Guys, please do, if you're going to the game, please enjoy it. I think if you are watching from home on TNT Sports, they're showing a premiere of the LA Wolves sort of film, which is really good. We went to the actual premiere of that, and it will be available on the Wolves YouTube as well, so definitely worth checking that out. And of course, the Molyneux Sleep Out. If you could spare any cash, it would really mean a lot. So guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, your predictions. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you all very soon.